Right, it's 10 minutes gone after 3 p.m. On the 1873 FM drive time. Right, with yours truly, Wildfire. Right, as promised, we've got the former Deputy Prime Minister of Zimbabwe, Professor Mutambara, joining us on the line this afternoon on the drive. Prof, good afternoon and welcome to the 1873 FM.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to share with your listeners.
No, thank you so much, Prof. All right, we just kick it going, Prof, and get to the matter of the day. You just launched the second edition of Pathway to Power, right? And for those that went through the first one and the transition onto the new edition, the second edition of Pathway to Power, what can they expect?
Now, this is now the journey, the path from 2003 to 2009, the path to power. By power, we don't mean self-serving or egocentric pursuits. We're talking about power as the ability to change your situation, the ability to make a difference, path to influence. Path to creating values and institutions. So the involvement that I got into in Zimbabwe from 2003 to 2009 with my colleagues with the view to create a peaceful, democratic and prosperous Zimbabwe. Our efforts to do that and also some autobiographical material. So it is basically the journey that I traveled from 03 to 09. But I also take opportunity to project the lessons from that period to the current situation. In other words, although it's a historical piece, it is also an opportunity to analyze what's going on in Zimbabwe right now and how we can learn from the past.
Okay, right. I'm sure you'd agree that a lot of people would say history will always remember and history will always have a memory.
It's more than that, my brother. It's more than that. A page of history is worth 10 volumes of logic. If you don't learn from history, if you don't leverage history, you will not make much progress. He or she who controls the past determines the future. And if history is so important, we can't afford to have that history be wrong, incomplete, or disempowering. So it's very important that as Africans, we become masters of our narratives, masters of our history. A page of history is worth 10 volumes of logic. We must write, we must document.
I mean, I'm looking, Prof, at some of the individuals that have read the book and some that have gone to the book launches. You've got the likes of Tuma Mawere that has also voiced in and said, in his opinion, the premise on which this book is written is that Professor Mutambara has traversed a journey from birth to the day he assumed the post as DPM in the government of national unity led by the former president.
Explain that again?
No, I'm saying some of the opinions from individuals that have read the books and attended your launches. I'll just quickly quote something that I came across, an article that was written. It says, in my opinion, the premise on which this book is written is that Professor Mutambara has traversed a journey from birth to the day he assumed the post of Deputy Prime Minister in the government of national unity.
It's more than that. More than that. That's a very poor opinion. What we're saying is we're emphasizing that our historians must write about us. When you say the Ndebele people, when you say the Shona people, when you say the Zulu people, the authorities are not Africans. You have A.T.P. Taylor, you have David Beach, you have Terence Ranger. We want to make sure that our own people become critical writers, critical thinkers. They make contributions to knowledge. I'm trying to walk the talk by documenting my experiences from the period 2003 to 2009. And also the issue of power. We are emphasizing influence. We're emphasizing change makers. We're emphasizing creating an environment where we can have constitutionalism, where we can have democracy. We need to make sure that we become participants. But from being participants, we must document, we must write, and make sure that our own efforts are documented for prosperity.
Right. And I mean, Prof, when you talk about prosperity, when you talk about pathway to power, what is it that you feel was lacking in this world when it comes to power that led you to actually create this pathway to power?
Yeah, you need to listen very carefully because you're not listening. When we say power, we mean influence. When we say power, we mean create an environment where people can thrive and have better life outcomes. When we say power, we're talking about the ability to make a difference. When we say power, we mean changing your reality. Definition of power is about changing the conditions. If there's poverty, create livelihoods, create prosperity. If there's no democracy, create democracy. If there's no constitutionalism, create an environment where there's rule of law. To do that, you must have some instruments or some predisposition to effect change. So our transformation, our agenda is about how we can make this world a better place by being players, by being activists. We cannot be bystanders. We cannot be noisy bystanders. We cannot be watchers. We must be actors. And in acting, we're able to be in charge of our lives, be the change you seek to see in the world. That's coming from Gandhi. But it's coming from Nehanda as well. It's coming from Kaguvi. It's coming from the freedom fighters. They did not ask what, who is going to deliver change. They took it upon themselves to bring about a new dispensation. So we're saying that as so far as Africans are concerned, across the globe, black people across the globe, we must work together, we must unite, we must be change agents, and in doing so, we must make sure that we're effective and we deliver change.
I get what you mean, Prof. I mean, when you look at the idea of power or creating a path to power, you mentioned the issues of constitutionalism, the issues of rule of law. Shouldn't our focus be more on creating avenues for the respect of rule of law and constitutionalism before we talk about power?
Again, you're not listening. When you have power, you can make sure that the constitution is respected. Mugabe had power for 37 years. He abused it. Mnangagwa has power now. He is abusing it. If you have somebody who has the right disposition to enable constitutionalism to thrive, to enable democracy to thrive, to enable that the people prosper in terms of economics. So power can be used negatively. It's a double-edged sword. But we're emphasizing the ability to leverage influence for good. Hitler was powerful, but he used it negatively. But if you look at Churchill, he used it to liberate his country and other countries. When you look at Lee Kuan Yew, he used power in Singapore to drive the foreign economy. When you look at the Chinese, without democracy, they're using their power to move 600 million people from poverty to prosperity. So power can be used positively or negatively. And we are saying, why don't we aspire to influence society positively by being players, by being change makers?
Okay.
So constitutionalism, rule of law, democracy, those things can be brought about by positive use of influence, by positive use of power. And Mugabe for 7 years had power, but he used it negatively.
You see,
hopefully those in the opposition who are trying to become presidents and members of parliament and cabinet ministers, when they get into power, when they get into office, maybe they can institute good laws, remove laws like AIPA and POSA, laws like the Reconstruction Act. All those laws were created for men and women who had wrong values. What we want to do is to have a society, powerful men and women with the right values, right systems, right disposition, so that we can thrive and prosper as a people. Influence is important. Influence is important. But what's important is to make sure the influence is used for national interest, for the common good, not abused for sectarian interest, for a few people. But we want the influence, we want the power to be used for the benefit of the majority of the people.
You actually touched on a very important subject, Prof. And I'm actually paying attention when you talk about power. You mentioned the likes of Hitler, the likes of Robert Mugabe, that they had the power, but they abused it. Don't you think that the society is afraid of people that come forward and claim to be powerful individuals?
People don't come and claim to be powerful individuals. In a democratic society, in a normal democratic society, there are democratic processes. People present themselves with their agendas and manifestos, and they're voted into office. So the power resides in the people. Then the people put these individuals into office. In a democratic environment, they should be able to remove them out of office if they do not deliver what is in the common interest. However, in undemocratic environments, the people who get into office, they overstay in office and they do not serve the people. But where there's a democratic dispensation, the people can withdraw the power or the influence that they've given to officials in government and put other people in office. So it's not about individuals putting themselves into power. The power resides in the people. The power is borrowed from the people, and the people are supreme. Those that govern must govern with the consent of the governed. That's our normal democracy. But sometimes we don't have a normal democracy, and individuals either come in democratically and then they stay, or they impose themselves and they stay. What we want to see is the interests of the people, the aspirations of the people must be supreme. And any influence must be used for the common good, not for self-interest or for personal aspirations, but for the collective aspirations of the people.
Right. When you talk about the people having the power, the past 30 or so years of Zimbabwe, have the Zimbabwean people not known that they've got the power? Because they've gone through so much, but nothing has changed.
Again, you make my point. You make my point. If Robert Mugabe wanted, if ZANU-PF wanted to empower the people and be democratic, they've done so. So powerful people make a difference. So Robert Mugabe was in charge for 37 years, and he decided to be undemocratic. He decided to rig elections. He decided to destroy the economy. So here is a man with power, with influence, and he decides to use it negatively. You have Mahathir in Malaysia, not very democratic, but he was able to drive the economy of Malaysia. You have Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore, not very democratic, but was able to drive Singapore to be the #3 economy in the world. You have your Chinese, not very democratic, but they've made China the second business economy in the world. They've managed to move 600 million people from poverty. You make my point. Individuals who have influence can make a difference, a positive difference or a negative difference. Idi Amin, negative difference. The apartheid regime, negative difference. Hitler, Mussolini, negative difference. So we are saying, as we move towards influence, number one, let's find ways to make sure that influence has values. That influence is rooted in the national interest, in the collective interest. We don't abuse influence for self-interest and for self-aggrandizement, but rather we use power or influence to help and drive society.
Okay, so in terms of helping and driving society, where do these conversations begin? Where do we start?
We start everywhere. We start everywhere, like we're doing right now. What's important is to understand that if people get a government that they deserve, and everyone has a duty and obligation to be a player in the democratic process as a voter, as a candidate, as a civic society activist, as an academic, as a business person. It's our collective agenda to be active insofar as creating a society, a country, a world we want to live in. It's everyone's child. We must all step up to the plate and do different things in different environments. But what's important is to realize that when we do all these things, sometimes when we document, it's better to learn, easier to learn when information is written down. Every successful civilization has had writers and readers. The Chinese, the Indians, the Europeans, and the Americans have been writing. And the Chinese can tell you 5,000 years ago, which is the following. 2,000 years ago, the Africans cannot tell you what happened 200 years ago. The African, look at Robert Mugabe right now. He's not feeling too well. But he's not done a single pamphlet. We don't know his experiences from 1960 when he came back from Ghana to 2017 was thrown out to a coup d'etat. We don't know anything about his experience that fought here in Zambia and in Ghana. We don't have to agree with him, by the way. We can learn, we can see, we can experience through the writings. Right now, as I speak to you, there's no biography of Chitep. There's no biography of Tongogana. There's no biography of Nikita Mangena. We are not writing about our people. Right now, Musika is dead. Nothing is written. And then John Gomo, but Joshua Gomo, at least tried, when he went into exile, came up with a book. Sekere tried, Musipa has tried, but we are saying beyond biographies, let us write about history, about philosophy, about mathematics, about engineering, about law. The books we are studying in Africa at UZ, at UJ, at WIT must not be written by foreigners. Why can't we write about engineering? Why can't we write about biology, about medicine? Where's the African voice in terms of action?
Okay.
And there in knowledge production and idea generation.
Right. And Prof, taking you back a bit, if you were to rate the inclusive government in terms of effectiveness, who do you think stands out as a shining star and why?
No, we don't do that. We don't rate ourselves. You can. So all I can say is that we tried our best.
Okay.
That is, well, and speaking when they're in government, so it was a very difficult arrangement by definition. You know, coalition government to get the next election. However, within those constraints, we're able to deliver a new constitution. Within those constraints, to stabilize the economy. Within those, the currency was stabilized, covered part. The best and deliver, in particular, the new constitution in 2018. But in terms of grading, you can grade us. I can grade myself.
Oh, okay. Now, I mean, your colleagues that
my colleagues,
yeah, that you worked with.
You can grade them. Yes, we did our best given the tough environment. It was a threesome, a very hard and difficult situation, but we tried our best.
Right. And Prof, you also mentioned the issue of we need to tell our story. We need to write the stories. But many a times, individuals in positions of power are not accessible. It's difficult.
That's a very good point. Yeah, you raised a very good point.
Yeah, it's difficult to access them. Yeah.
Yeah, as we speak right now, the authority on the GPA in Zimbabwe is a PhD at the University of Basel in Switzerland by studying the GPA. So in terms of being an authority, and what you come to Zimbabwe, I never heard of Zimbabwe before. Zimbabwe interviewed everyone involved and so on and so forth, and came up with a PhD on the GPA. While the Africans were sleeping, while the Zimbabweans were sleeping. Yeah, and also another problem is that when we see a foreigner coming to do research, as leaders, we open up. You know, when you see a young African researcher coming through, we don't. It's accessible. So you're raising a very good point, which I've discovered that more are not accessible to African academics, to foreigners. So open up to Europeans. It's a mental powerful weapon of the oppressor. It's the mind of the oppressed. So most of us leaders have mental slavery within us, and hence we find it easier to open up to an academic from Switzerland, an academic from China, an academic from America, and not an academic from Malawi or from Zimbabwe. So we must make sure, number one, we write. It's up.
Right.
We open up. Foreign from Africa is access to the African leader. Right now, there's a challenge on that subject.
Right. And I mean, Prof, you are at a very important position where you've interacted with a lot of these heads of states. Can we then say the Prof is our bridge to accessing some of these leaders? Because the youths are hungry to gain knowledge from the likes of yourselves. I mean, I feel honored right now, Prof, to be speaking to you. Right. There is a whole lot of other youths out there who would want to speak to some of these individuals who are in position of power. Can the Prof be the individual that opens the doors for the youths to start engaging with our leaders?
I'll try my best. I was just a deputy prime minister. State, so my influence is not that great. But where I can facilitate access, I'll do so. But I don't want to overstate my claim in terms of influence. But I'll try my best to be the bridge.
Right.
And also to emphasize that the African American leaders, Obama is working book already, and Clinton 3 books, Bush Jr. books. So the African leader must. The President Xi of China is what comes. Blair, the African leader must understand that part of statecraft is documentation. Thatcher has got 3 books. Thatcher has got 3 books. So anyway, number one, the African leaders themselves must try to do their own or facilitate an environment where somebody else does a biography. But more importantly, they must be accessible to researchers, to historians, to academics, who can then do the research and become the authorities on our recent history and our history in general. So that we can say the African is a master of his narrative. The African is in charge of his history. A page of history is worth 10 volumes of logic. And we can't afford for that history to be wrong, incomplete, or disempowering.
Right. Now, those are definitely wise words, Prof. I got to say thank you so much, Prof, for actually taking time and having this chat. And for those that are looking at the book, how do they go about?
Most bookstores in Zimbabwe, available in most bookstores in South Africa and also at the airport. It's now also available on Amazon in 2 forms, the e-book and the physical book. So we've tried to make sure that the book is available globally, everywhere, in particular through Amazon.com.
Okay. No, thank you so much, Prof. And as a DPM, Prof, I think some of the viewers and listeners would like to know what is and was the role of the Deputy Prime Minister. No, Prof.
The Deputy Prime Minister was there to assist the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister was the chief officer. 2 deputy prime ministers are there to assist the Prime Minister. But I had a special role because I was one of the 3 principals. Robert Mugabe, Morgan Tsvangirai were the 3 principals, were in overall charge of the government, supervising people like Mnangagwa. So, supervise these fellas. So you find out from book 3 whether we thought they were able or able. So the Deputy Prime Minister was there to assist the Prime Minister, but also in my case, I had a special role as a principal, working together with Morgan Tsvangirai and Robert Mugabe.
Right, and you are saying you were advising the likes of the now supervising the now president of Zimbabwe. Do you think he learned something from you?
Again?
I'm saying if you were advising the now president of Zimbabwe, are there any lessons that he learned from you that he's implementing at the moment?
No, he's not implementing. What I'll tell him, number one, is he must do a SWOT analysis. What are the opportunities? What are the threats? A full SWOT analysis, in particular the weaknesses. He must understand that he's running a divided country. He must bring people together because our people split right in the middle. That's challenge number one. Challenge number 2, he must work on the economy. Right now, he has messed up on the economy. He has not managed to rescue the economy. Currency confusion going on, shortage of fuel, and focus. There's no focus. Some of these people are talking about for 2023. Into it. There's no focus. I'm very disappointed. So I would want to see him become a statesman, become a leader, not a factional leader, a leader who understands that he has to reach out because he's running a divided country through a disputed election. So to see some leadership and statesmanship on the part of Mnangagwa and PF. And he must also be statesman in the position. Why? Because number one, challenging the 2/3 majority. Like, hey, how can you claim to then when 2/3 is controlled by the country?
Right, right.
Very circumspect about that. They're weakened because ZANU's 2/3 majority. Number two, elections were problematic. The situation is that in our case, the legitimacy of Mugabe was questioned by everybody. South Africa, SADC, and the AU. The legitimacy of Mugabe is only challenged in Zimbabwe alone. So the opposition is on its own. Why? Because Mnangagwa, SADC has endorsed Mnangagwa, the AU has endorsed Mnangagwa. So it makes it very difficult for the opposition to operationalize. So I'm saying, understand those and better strategic thinking and planning. Given the weaknesses, they must do a SWOT analysis. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What are the opportunities? Threats. I want to see better strategic thinking in the opposition. You can't talk about destroying an election for 5 years. What is your plan? The National Transitional Authority. Who's going to call for that authority? You don't recognize Mnangagwa. Who's going to call the meeting?
Right.
Mnangagwa will call the meeting in what capacity? This is why I'm emphasizing that it was going to be easier if South Africa had said, look, this election was problematic. If SADC had said, yes, there's a problem with the legitimacy, the meeting. The AU can call the meeting. So I respect my colleagues in the opposition. They're doing very well, they're working very hard. But them being more applying their thinking caps, make sure that their strategic analysis is solid. Understand their weaknesses and the threats. In particular, these weaknesses I'm articulating must be mitigated so that we can be able to move forward. But in summary,
yes,
Zimbabweans must work together. We've got 5 years for the next election. Let's find an understanding to work together. Not necessarily GNU or Government of National Unity, but a framework in which we can for 5 years.
Right.
We can't be bickering and talking about a stolen election for 5 years in the last high. Put the national interest ahead and somehow find a way to work on the reforms, work together, and save our people for the next 5 years.
Right. And Prof, you've said that one of the problems with the opposition is that there is a statesman deficit. Is that your position?
No. Statesmanship important on both in the opposition and these people. We're urging them to rise above personal interests, rise up in aspirations, and put Zimbabwe first. We want the Zimbabwe.
Okay, Prof, I'm kind of losing you. I hope you're not moving around.
Sorry, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
okay.
Now I can hear you. Yes, you were saying, Prof?
I was emphasizing that a lot of respect from my position.
Yes.
All I'm trying to do is saying, let us be more circumspect. Let us understand our strengths. And they're very clear. The strengths are very clear. Let's understand our weaknesses. Let's understand the opportunities that are available and the threats that are there to us. In particular, let us mitigate this issue around and say, how do we best move forward, given that owner and that ZANU has. This is a problem because you can't claim to be president without a parliament. How do you even run the country? How do you pass laws? So if you are going to challenge the president, well, so that you say, I must be president and I also have a majority without the other. Anyway, it's harder we had in the year 2008.
Right.
is a way on legitimacy together in the AU. In Parliament, we had majority, some was in a minority. So our case, Morgan and I and our team, easier. I actually understand that they are working under a very difficult situation.
Right.
In their constraints.
Okay. And is it your position also, Prof, that ED as a person you have supervised is a statesman? What about Chamisa?
I said ED is a statesman. I didn't say that.
Okay. All right.
I said number one, he must telling that he is leading a divided country. He's not showing that economy. He must show.
Yes.
Not showing that. Number three, politically, he's not serious. He shut them into a new government. That's not statesmanship. But anyway, my full views on Mnangagwa will come in book 3. So you have to wait a bit longer.
Prof, we need to preempt some of these issues. I mean, if you were to advise ED on what you think should be the single most important thing you should focus on right now, I know you've mentioned the 3, but which is the most important thing that if you were to advise him, you should focus on right now?
Number 1. Number 2. Now, build a legacy and stop the nonsense about electioneering. Stop the nonsense about 2023. Run the country now.
Okay.
Country. Number 2, solve the economic challenges. And number 3.
Hello, Prof.
Can you hear me?
No, I actually didn't get the second and the third point that you're giving.
Okay. The third one is you are a divide. Find a way of unifying the country. Number 2, the economy is in trouble. Solve our economic challenges. Number 3, do not concentrate on self-serving politics. Drop the nonsense about it for 2023. Be a statesman.
Okay, right. And the other one, Prof, what would you advise, what would you give to Chamisa as an advice? And what should be his next step?
Well, first and foremost, I would say I am very appreciative and very respectful of the work they have done in the opposition. In particular, their performance in the elections were very stunning, very impressive. So I'm very respectful and very appreciative. Let's have some strategic thinking going. Sit down with your team and come up with a 5-year plan. 5-year strategic plan. Be very clear on your strengths. Be very clear on weaknesses. Be very clear on the opportunities available. Be clear on the threats. Come out and your plan TA must think through the issues around who meeting between you and Mnangagwa. How can Mnangagwa call a meeting when you don't recognize him? 2, like in South Africa, call a meeting when they recognize Mnangagwa as the president. So make sure that there's minimum grandstanding. Let's have sober statesmanship at play. Let's make sure that we are clear about the implications of ZANU controlling Parliament using 2/3 majority. If we make you president today with a 2/3 majority Parliament, how do you run the country? Where is your plan for that? So seriousness in terms of understanding the limitations and weaknesses of the position of the opposition. And of course, your strengths and build on your strengths, understand the threats. In other words, I'm saying let's have a strategic plan, a 5-year plan, which is robust and thought through.
Right. And do you have any aspirations, Prof, of running for office?
I've got I think that's good enough for an aspiration for now.
Okay. No, Prof, I got to say thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure having a conversation with you this afternoon. Looking forward to engaging with you more again.
Thank you very much for this opportunity with your listeners.
No, thank you so much, Prof.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye. That's Professor Arthur Mutambara speaking to us this afternoon. All right, as a former Deputy Prime Minister of Zimbabwe. All right, kind of pointers that I actually picked up. We'll share those with you as well. But it says ED lacks focus. All right, this reminds me of what Ian Smith said back in the days after coffee or tea with Robert Mugabe. He says he lacked composure. All right, Prof. Mutambara says ED lacks a focus. He needs to be a strategic thinker, and he needs to use what's called the SWOT analysis, right? As he is leading a divided country. All right, and thank you so much, Prof. Looking forward to engaging more with you.